Hello, welcome to Dundrell's podcast. I'm your host Justin. So today we're reviewing the new Netflix film Day Shift, which is an hour and 54 minutes. Came out August 12th. Directed by J.J Perry, who was like a stunt actor who worked on like Mortal Kombat Annihilation as Noob Saibot apparently. And if you watch the movie, there's a lot of like stunt actors in the movie, like Scott Adkins, who plays one of the Nazarian brothers, which they should have gave those two guys a movie, not our two leads here. So the movie stars Jamie Foxx, Dave Franco, Karla Souza, Snoop Dogg. I guess he's no longer going by Snoop Lion. Megan Good, Natasha Lou Bardizzo, Scott Adkins, Steve Howie, Peter Stormare, Eric Lang, Tatiana Garder, Oliver Masucci as Klaus, who you might recognize as German Liam Nielsen from the Netflix show Dark, which I even know the guy spoke English, and he was also in a controversial German comedy film Guess Who's Back, which go look that movie up, and you know within 2 seconds why that movie's controversial. Also, C.S. Lee from Dexter's in the movie. And I didn't even recognize where was he in the movie. I don't know. So there was two reasons why I watched this movie. One reason was I saw a review from Bad Movie Reviews, which is this new film critique channel on YouTube by this Indonesian guy, and I really like his reviews. He's like the film critic version of That Anime Snob, and I love That Anime Snob. And the main reason why I watched it, despite the fact that Bad Movie Reviews, as you can guess by the name, said this movie sucked, right? But the one reason why I wanted to watch this movie is that the movie sounded a lot like John Carpenter's Vampires with James Woods, and I love John Carpenter Vampires to the detriment of my friendship between not only Hollywood, who hates that fucking film. I don't know, buddy. I love it. What can I tell you? And the second reason why is comedian and podcaster Bobby Lee was supposed to be in the movie, but his girlfriend, who they're not even dating anymore, who he was dating for like 10 years, was like, don't do that movie, it's offensive, right? So I was like trying to figure out, okay, who's he supposed to play in the movie? And it was pretty obvious that he was supposed to play Peter Stormare's role as Troy, who is like the pawn shop guy who's really into like Korean pop music. So it's all that was probably supposed to be Bobby Lee's role. So the movie is about Jamie Foxx plays this character named Bud Jabronsky, who lives in I think Death Valley, San Fernando, or whatever the fuck. I don't know my geography. I think it's in LA, right? I think it's. I'm pretty sure they said it was Death Valley, which there was even a TV show called Death Valley that was like cops, but with supernatural bullshit, and it was a pretty shitty show on MTV. And he's basically this vampire hunter, whose ex-wife is threatening to move away and take his daughter with her unless he can come up with 10 grand, right? And for an ex-union vampire hunter, it's very hard to come up with a lot of money. So he gets his friend Snoop Dogg, who's Big John Elliott, who's like a cowboy vampire hunter. Yes, Snoop Dogg plays a cowboy vampire hunter. Gets him his old union job back at the vampire hunting union, which logo is the fucking satanic pentagram with the Illuminati pyramid like on top. So it's like, what the fuck? Fucking Netflix, man. They have to troll us with their use of bullshit symbols. right? And he gets his job back, but he has he has to deal with Dave Franco, who plays Seth, who's an anti-gun cat lover, which is like, oh my fuck. They really, which he says, oh, I'm anti-gun, they're immoral, they're killing machines, then uses a gun later on in the movie, no problem. after his first time, he's basically a desk jockey who gets assigned to Jamie Foxx to chaperone him to make sure he doesn't break any of the rules, because Jamie Foxx is this huge rule breaker, right? And earlier in the film, he kills this old vampire, right? And it turns out she was the daughter of this badass vampire played by Karla Souza, who is this Mexican American, elder vampire. Which apparently in this vampire universe, if you're older than 100 years old, you're considered a vampire elder. Which is like, holy, I facepalmed at that. As somebody who likes vampire fiction, who used to watch True Blood, even read, like, I haven't read Anne Rice books yet, but I've read, like, one of the Vampire Masquerade books. I'm huge into the lore, watch the video game Let's Plays. It's just like, holy fuck, 100 years makes you a fucking elder. Holy shit. I think the minimum in like Vampire the Masquerade is like you have to be at least 1,000 years old. So it's like, holy fuck, man. Oh my god. Right, but like 100 years, whatever, right? And she's developing this sunscreen that allow vampires to be out in the sun, and they're planning to take over Death Valley, right? But before she can do that, she needs to get her revenge on Jamie Foxx, who killed her daughter, right? So the movie is basically an action comedy. It's kind of like it reminded me a lot of vampire, like John Carpenter's Vampires, but if it was written by Judd Apatow. And then you had over-the-top action scenes from the Raid, but like a lot of stunt actors, a lot of comedic actors in the film. And, the action scenes were the only good thing about the film. Very fast-paced, very brutal action scenes, right? Very dynamic. You have a very cool chase scene in the movie. I think I would have to double check, but I think they must be getting because the Raid guys did a Netflix film called The Night Comes For Us, and then ever since The Night Comes For Us, in a lot of like Netflix's action films, they have the same kind of action. So I think they're having those guys work on the action choreography for these films. I don't know, but it's very much in the same style as the Raid, right, with the action scenes. That's the only saving grace of the film, because the jokes, because it's modern day, the jokes are garbage, right? There wasn't even a joke in the fucking movie that made me smile, much less laugh, right? But I thought the cinematography was great. This movie had like $100 million budget, and it showed, right? But other than that, like besides from the action scenes, there's no redeeming quality about this film other than, I guess, if you like Jamie Foxx, but there's none. The only redeeming one of the scenes in the movie that Dave Franco's character was so fucking annoying, right? So when he turned into a vampire and Jamie Foxx cut his head off, I'm like, oh great, thank God Dave Franco is no longer in the fucking shitty fucking movie, this shitty movie, which he was the worst part of, by the way. and it turns out he's an uber vampire, so he's able to survive even though he gets his head cut off. And it's like, fuck, man. He's still in the fucking movie. And then also the movie, at the end of the movie, instead of bringing back the badass Nazarian brothers, which, you know, Jamie Foxx teamed up with in the like halfway point of the movie to clear a vampire nest, he teams up with Snoop Dogg and this random vampire chick who was working for the villain of the movie, but decides to change sides for no reason, even though she gave the villain of the movie the info she needed to find Jamie Foxx's family so she could kidnap them, right? And also the action scene where they kill Oliver Mazzucci's character made no fucking sense. Though his death scene was kind of cool, I guess, but it was like, what the fuck? He just gets his arms, like, yeah, he has, like, he's choking them to, he's fighting both the Heather, the good vampire, and Dave Franco is a vampire. He has them in each hand, choking them to death, and then they rip his arms off. So it's like, what the fuck? That was so dumb. But yeah, I honestly, this movie, it's one of those movies where if I had watched it in theaters, and I wouldn't be like too pissed off, because like there was some cool shit in the movie, but it's just like, you know, the movie just reminded me of better fucking movies I'd rather watch. And then they had this like random fucking Lost Boys reference. They referenced the Lost Boys last line in that movie, in this movie, by Snoop Dogg, who you think had like a heroic sacrifice, but it's like, oh, it turns out he survived somehow. Even though, whatever, I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but that was kind of dumb. So if I were to give this movie a rating, it's a 5 out of 10. It's not bad, but it's not good either. You might have some fun watching the film. So yeah, that's it for this review, guys. Peace.